Frenzzz, I bought the Dior foundation stick with much deliberation because if it's your first time seeing me, hi. Oh, let me move this mic, it's in frame. There were several times where I mentioned the coveted Dior foundation stick where I had swiped it in store, was deterred by the fragrance, but many of you had said, you know what, Alicia, the fragrance is not that bad. I have this skin condition, these skin concerns, the foundation stick was fine. I thought the fragrance would bother me. It's actually not a problem. You need to try it, Alicia. It's beautiful. And specifically during my best of makeup video where I had presented this duo, which if you haven't seen that video, by the way, why don't you check it out? Link up above and down below. I awarded this duo the LYS Stick Skin Tint and the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint as my duo of choice for the year in the complexion category, and also mentioned that I was well aware that many would have probably awarded the Dior stick a favorite just because I've seen it circulating amongst many beauty favorite lists, and I just said, gosh darn it, you know what? I'll buy it and give it a shot. Now, funny, on the Dior website, they did not have the shade 3.5N. And here are swatches that I took at Sephora. Made sure I took the photo in front of natural light. So you can see the difference between 3N and 3.5N. If you are around my skin complexion, if you are a skin shade twin, I would implore you to get 3.5N because 3N is a little too light. And while I understand it might be fitting for the season because I know I'm not that tan anymore and the lighting is a little weird today because it's snowing outside, it's cloudy, I'm relying on my ring light. It might appear a little distorted, a little too warm on screen, so I apologize for that. But you can see on the photo how light 3 is. And even if I were to just apply it on the center of my face, if I insisted on buying 3N, I would have had to cocktail it with my other complexion products. For example, I would have probably have to cocktail it with Danessa or even Lisa's skin tint, which is number 10. And we'll get through the comparison swatches, but if it's your first time hearing about this foundation stick, and by the way, no, this is not my first video for 2025. I think the Light Scatters might be the first official. Well, that's not true because I did upload December favorites as like my first upload for 2025, even though it wasn't actually, well, you know what? I'm just babbling. Just ignore me, ignore me. All that to say, if you haven't heard of this Dior foundation stick, it was a wild favorite for 2024. And I think it entered the scene maybe mid-year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not entirely sure when it dropped. I think it was after the Star Filter round drop with the Glow Maximizer and what else? I can't recall. The contour sticks, something else perhaps. But I stayed away because, again, with my history with fragrance in beauty products, and when I swatched it in Saks and smelled it, I was fearful. And then one time I swatched it on my face at Sephora and the stick was more of a soft matte and I was like, oh no. And it was because my skin does lean more to the dry side. I don't regularly use traditional skincare, serums, moisturizers, and the such. I do wash my face if removing makeup and I'll just apply Vaseline afterwards. That has been my skin routine for like the last year and a half. All that to say, naturally my skin condition will lean more towards the drier side and will have to be prepped. And when I swatched this foundation stick in store without any moisturizer, it was a little bit of a disaster. But here we have an innovative multi-use foundation stick that delivers a natural blurred finish, 24-hour coverage, and all day hydration. And again, I purchased the shade 3N. Just to quickly cover the shade description here. 3.5N reads to be medium skin with neutral undertones, whereas 3 is just medium skin with neutral undertones. This is obviously a deeper shade based off that swatch photo I showed at the beginning of the video. But allow me to swatch this foundation stick again. This is 3.5N. I know it leans a little warm. And I remember reading a comment that the deeper shades are a disaster. And it seems that, I don't know, man, that's a jump from 3 to 3.5. But all that to say, while we're here, let's swatch my other complexion products. Here is the LYS Skin Tint in TN3. That is... that looks so yellow compared to the Dior stick. Me, oh my. The Serum Skin Tint in number 9. This appears to be more golden compared to the Dior stick. And last but not least, well, actually second to last, because I should swatch my foundation from Tuckahoe just for funsies. My apologies for always using the arm with my burn scar. It's like I never learned. Here is the Lisa Eldridge. Let me tap it out so you can better see the color here. You know what's so crazy? The Dior looks to be like almost like a peach. And last but not least, we have the Tuckahoe foundation in shade 40, and I'll swatch that next to Lisa's Skin Tint, and that looks to be the closest resembling shade to the Dior. And isn't that interesting, seeing the different finishes of this foundation? Before we get in a little closer, let's apply some moisturizer. This was a deluxe sample I received from Sephora when making a purchase, the Lala Retro Whipped Cream. During my skincare days, when I was heavy into the skincare, I recommended the Lala Retro Cream a number of times. I don't think there's anything particularly different, even though marketing will say otherwise. I would just use my CeraVe, but the reason why I'm using this is so that I can empty this mini jar and use it to carry my CeraVe in the future, okay? These little deluxe sample jars do come in handy when you're trying to downsize your packing and whatnot and not bring along the entire tube. So we got the skin moisturized, and now it's time for you to come in a little closer. That's enough. I know I look a little yellow, my apologies, but we're gonna go right into this stick, okay? Ooh, that's the first swipe. Now here's the thing with foundation sticks. The danger lies in just being a painter and applying too much initially. I think actually this is too much for one side, in my opinion. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. How about I strike instead of swipe? And we got new blemishes here to test this out, okay? A little bit here on the forehead. Notice I'm not placing anything on the center of my face because I would like to move the foundation out to in for it to not appear heavy and cakey on the skin. If you're wondering, well, what type of brush we should use? Well, naturally, given this consistency, I would gravitate towards a denser brush, like the BK Beauty 115, unfortunately not available as a single, but in their complexion trio set, or the Refer LC03, because these denser brushes will naturally move this creamer product more efficiently than like a floppier brush would, or even BK Beauties in the same complexion trio set, the 116. If you decide to take this smaller dome-shaped like brush around for the ride. Now, I already smell it. It smells like flowers, but not too bad. It's almost like, no, it's flowers. But not grandma flowers. No offense to grandma, okay? Grandma is lit, but I understand the implications when I say grandma is that older kind of flowery smelling scent that has a little more vintage feel to it. This is a little more, I don't know, like Delia's. This is a younger flowery scent. You can notice the difference in my skin tone from out to in. I'm doing this without a mirror. Look at me, I'm so brave. Ooh, that's not too bad. Definitely happy I went with 3.5. 3 would have been a little too light. For the center of my face, I think going from brush to stick and then just addressing the areas that need a little more coverage is the best way to go in order to avoid oversaturating the skin with makeup. And again, if you do have dry skin, I would highly recommend that you prep it before going in with this foundation. If you have more oily skin conditions, then you don't have to worry about that. But I do enjoy how it just blended effortlessly into the skin. I know I have fantastic brushes, but the skin doesn't look like overly made up. And I do like the fact that I can go from brush to stick instead of going stick straight on my face. Again, to avoid that textured look to the skin. And I'm just going over the portions that tend to look overly made up. And the best thing about this is if I need to address areas such as here that need more coverage, I could use my finger. And what I discovered just now doing this is the warmth from your fingertips works the makeup beautifully into the skin, where it doesn't appear dry and chalky. And those portions like here that need more coverage, I can just use my finger. I took a glimpse in my bathroom mirror. I like the color, but if I don't add anything lighter on the center of my face, it looks like I have a tan. Maybe it looks a little off because it's winter, and I do have to be careful with how much I apply, because the thing with foundation sticks is that it's so easy to apply that one can overdo it, where it's so easy to slide on the skin. Before you know it, it's like, that's too much. I'm taking my refer brush and just maybe pulling off any excess product, but I'm gonna have to go in with my LYS on the center because I need a little more dimension here, like a difference in tone. And I know the skin tint stick is not a dedicated concealer, but that's better already, just to have that, again, distinction, a little bit of highlight. And I'm refraining from applying too much of the LYS skin tint. You know, this leads me to think, because I love cocktailing, I might want to combine the LYS with the Dior. I think that's what I have to do ultimately. And I don't have a problem with that, because I think the LYS stick is more of a natural skin finish, whereas the Dior is more of a soft matte finish. And maybe you can't detect that from the camera, but up close, a little more shine on the LYS swatch than the Dior swatch. Obviously more shine here from the tints, and then of course a little more shine here from Suku. What was this? Oh, that's Suku. A little shine from the Suku, a lot shine from the tints, or will be a nice combination, the skin tint from Lisa and the Dior stick. But here are some close-ups of the Dior stick by itself. There's no doubt about it, the texture is amazing, right? I can acknowledge that. What I find off is the skin match. Something's off. Something's a little off, because 3 would have been too light, but 3.5 is neutral. I don't want to say it makes my complexion look dull. I'm going to use another word. It looks a little flat. The shade 3.5N on me, it looks a little flat. I need it to have a little bit of, just a touch of golden in there, not for the warmth, but just to kind of give it a little bit of vibrancy, if that makes any sense. So because I love to experiment with you friends here on the video with me, I'll wipe this off, come back, 1/2 LYS cocktail, the other half Lisa cocktail, and we'll see what we get from there. Wiped off the makeup, reapplied moisturizer, brushed up the brows. My apologies for you to have witnessed those caterpillars from before. We got the spatula. That's not a spatula. We got the palette and spatula on standby. Let's first delve into the LYS combination. I'm scraping a little bit of LYS and then placing that on the palette, mixing it now with the Dior in the same fashion, scraping off well, you know what? I don't want to do as much with the Dior, so you can kind of see the difference in shade and undertone. I'm gonna mix that together and see. Ooh, I think also the LYS is a lovely mix-in because it is a little more dewy-ish than the Dior, not by a ton, but it doesn't have that same soft matte feel as the Dior. And I'm just pouncing that on. Ooh, and I have to be careful because again, a little goes, well, that's full coverage. A little goes a long way, and I don't want this to appear overly made up. But interesting, you can detect more of that golden undertone now from the influence of the LYS stick, but the presence of the Dior brings the shade down a little bit so it doesn't appear as light solo. Here's a close-up of the LYS Dior cocktail, and just a side-by-side still of how my skin looks on its own with the cocktail on the other side. Now we'll mix Lisa skin tint with the Dior. I'm just doing a drop of the skin tint, okay? Actually, that's probably more than what I need. Nevertheless, we'll proceed. And a little bit of the Dior stick. I'm gonna put you over there. I'm actually gonna press this off to the side to ensure the foundation actually gets on the palette. Let's mix those together. Tappity tap. We'll pounce this combination on the other side. You know it's crazy. The no product smell from Lisa's tint is overpowering the flowery scent from the Dior stick. Maybe that's due to the fact that I obviously didn't apply a ton, but how fascinating. Ooh, wait a minute. I love the Lisa combination because the LYS is giving a little bit golden, and I've said this before, I admire Lisa's number 10 shade for its neutral undertone, but the fact that it's a pretty good dead-on match for me, even if it's on or more so leaning on the lighter side, the undertone is perfect and doesn't make my complexion appear dull. Wow. Okay, I don't know if you could tell on camera, but you can see how this side is a little more neutral versus this is not only more golden, but also a little more skin-like natural finish. There's a little bit more of a glow here. Is that detectable around the cheekbone area, where it's a little more subdued on this side? Because naturally the Lisa skin tint does have more of a velvety finish, which I think paired with the soft matte consistency overall is going to give more of like a velvety finish on the skin. Whereas the LYS, the influence of the skin tint's more natural finish, almost leaning towards dewy a little bit, not completely, has more of like that shine. Took another peek in my bathroom mirror. I applied way too much makeup on this side. I can see how over the course of several hours it will start to break down. So I'm taking 115 and removing any excess product just by pouncing on the skin and working any leftover into the skin. I much prefer the Lisa cocktail side, not only because of the skin color, of the shade color, but because of the finish. It definitely has more of a soft matte look to the skin, texture to the skin, but it appears more skin-like in my opinion. It doesn't have that made up look like the LYS skin tint combination does. And that could be due to user error. I might have applied too much of the cocktail here. I didn't apply everything on the palette. You see there's leftover, but if you're combining the LYS stick with the Dior one, I would tread carefully with how much you apply because it could be too much in my opinion. And if that happens, just make sure you run another brush over your face just so you can ensure the blend is smooth and polished. That's a little better. That definitely looks more acceptable than what I had before. And to complete the look, I'll use Danessa's Yummy Skin. Actually, you know what? I'll pop on Danessa's Yummy Skin on the Lisa cocktail side because I do enjoy taking a little bit of the Lisa skin tint with the Yummy Skin Lift and Flex concealer and relying on the skin tint consistency to allow for more of a fluid application and also for the more neutral undertone to influence the shade here for my under eyes. That's nice. I like what's happening. You know, just for the sake of completing this look, why don't we use, you know what I want to do? Let me go back to what my 2023 favorites were for that year, because someone had asked, what do you think about your picks from 2023 or even 2022? And I'm like, that's a great question, and I think it's fun to go back. What do I have for best blush? I have to click on my affiliate links. For best blush of 2023, oh, of course, Suku, of course. That blush is out of stock. I'm so sorry. You know what? Let me see what I awarded in 2022. I awarded Haus Labs the Radiant Gel Powder Highlighter and the Velvet Bronzer. Oh, I have here, and the LYS Higher Standard Bronzer Stick would be my fave cream bronzer. Yes, I think that is a great product. And the Suku Melting Blush in Tomoshibi 08. Be Still My Heart. Why not? I got those products. Let me grab them. We have the Haus Labs Velvet Bronzer. I actually like this bronzer. I still do. I think the color, again, we have number 7, medium level 7. It has more of a tawny look to it, which I enjoy. And given the situation here that we have with these foundation cocktails, I think it will bring everything together. So let's pounce in, and I'm not going with the LYS cream stick because, you know, I don't want to overdo it here, but going in with the Haus Labs, and I'm being very light on purpose, but this does pack a punch depending on the brush you decide to use, right? I'm using a more flexible brush here that's not going to pick up as much product as a denser brush would, or even one that has shorter bristles, right? But just adding a little bit of warmth. And it's interesting, you can see how the color appears on a side that has a little more golden undertone versus where it has more of a neutral undertone. Isn't this just fascinating? Now, ooh, I gotta fish through my Suku. Hold on. Wow, I got it on the first pickup. How it was meant to be. It was meant to be. If you don't know the Suku Melting Powder Blush, this formula unfortunately was discontinued because Suku, I think, was encountering limitations with the resources that were responsible for this glorious formula, and the consistency is just moussey in the pan, but applies like a powder, and it's exceptional. And I'm taking now Tomoshibi on the center of the face. Oh, did we forget? I sure didn't. How beautiful Suku's Melting Powder Blush is. My goodness, it just wraps my cheeks in a beautiful warm embrace, especially this shade. Although it leans more of like that warm brown, it doesn't take on the characteristic of a bronzer, especially since I'm applying it on the center of my face. And you see, I'm nudging it up here high on the sides of my nose, right up against the lower lash line, because I almost want to imbue like that sunburn effect without the burn, you know what I'm saying? And I also have the Haus Labs, the Bio Radiant Gel Powder Highlighter in Peach Quartz and Fire Opal, but I think Fire Opal would be more of a fitting combination, don't you think? Let's take the BK Beauty brush that I feel will pick up the right amount. Yes! Ooh, looking golden. My goodness. I would probably have liked to apply my Byredo highlighter stick first, just to give the cheekbone area a little more of a cushion for the Bio Gel highlighter. But I think we succeeded in that combination, or that application, I should say. I'm just finishing the edges here. I'm buffing the edges in order for the powders to appear seamless. We're looking toasty-oasty. Okay, what did I have as my best of for lip? Let's see here. Oh, the sheer matte lipstick from Suku is making the sweep, okay? Till this day. 14, the sheer matte lipstick was and still is a lovely formula where it is a matte finish, but it has more, as the name says, like that kind of lightweight dose of color, but the velvet fit is coming. They finally revealed the name of the skinny lipsticks that I saw on the Suku spring collection photo. The colors just did me in. My goodness. But ooh, isn't this a nice combination? It is very monochromatic. It's giving is this what latte makeup is supposed to be? I have no idea. I would like to pair 14 with Lisa's Sculpt and Shade lip pencil in 1N, just to give a little more distinction there. But back to the foundation. Let me zoom out a little bit. Hold on. All right, we're back. I threw on some brows and actually applied the velvet bronzer through the crease and Tomoshibi from Suku on the lid, and applied the Bio Gel highlighter on the inner corner in Fire Opal. Just, you know, took out the twisties. This is the final look from our Dior, well, the official name, the Forever Skin Perfect Multi-Use Foundation Stick Blur Correction 24-Hour Hydration. And I know this might not be a conventional review where I just stick to the one product. I'll return with a wear test. Right now it is 2:28 and I could go out in a run with this on. I don't want to, but I know that people are interested in learning how the foundation wears over the course of several hours. Now, I would like to run the wear test again tomorrow and apply this earlier in the morning and actually give the foundation time to sit, to evolve, and see how it looks after 12 hours, right? Although marketing says 24 hours, not that I would wear foundation for that length of time ever, but I understand that people are interested in the wear time and if it's worth the investment, because this was $52 plus tax, sat around $56. Here's the thing, realistically, family, I would not wear this foundation solo. I would mix it with my skin tint because I do prefer how it looks with the skin tint consistency, kind of finessing not only the shade, but the texture as well. The texture solo is incredible. It does have a soft matte finish, but it has like a slip to it where surprisingly, despite how it appears soft matte on the swatch, maneuvers pretty beautifully across the skin, given the assumption that you prep your skin well. I applied a moisturizer, and if I hadn't, I don't think the foundation will move as successfully, just based off what I experienced when I used my fingers to blend it at Sephora. Granted, I didn't have any moisturizer on. A finger blend might not be an ideal approach to blending out this foundation stick, but if I do apply moisturizer and I have a dense brush on standby, I think that is an ideal setup for the best outcome in regards to my skin condition and how I would like my foundation to look after blending. I still would mix it with the skin tint because I just prefer the color overall. 3.5N by itself, although is a better match than 3N, I just think it's too flat on me. I think it's too neutral. There wasn't a layer there, and why I absolutely love Suku's foundation in 040, something about this color, I can't quite tell, just the color science behind it, where it has different notes of undertones, right? And I remember reading this once with not this jar version, but the black jar version that Suku released a few years ago. It is formulated to almost present different skin tones across the course of wear. I don't know how they managed to do that. Oh my gosh, the science of it all. But that's exactly what happened. Whereas I don't detect any other different undertone from the Dior. It's just neutral, and that's all you're gonna get. And for me, I need a little bit of something else just to steer the shade more in my favor so my complexion doesn't look as flat. When mixing it with the LYS, it does help the shade a little bit, but the LYS is a little more emollient. And if you like to cocktail like me, I would just be careful with how much LYS you put in there. Maybe a little less of the LYS and a little more of the Dior. You could turn those dials and see if it's a more fitting combination for that application. And I could have mixed it with the Yummy Skin, but I didn't want the shade itself to appear warmer. That was my fear, because number 9 leans a little too golden for me. That's why I like to mix it with the LYS or even with Lisa Skin Tint in 10. I think from all the cocktails that I did in this video, my favorite combination is the Dior stick and the LYS Skin Tint. This isn't to say that if you're my skin twin and you want the Dior stick, that you have to buy the Lisa. Not at all. This is more so, if you have all these complexion products, I think it favorable to mix them all together and use them at once. I wouldn't just use one foundation stick, like I don't just use one bronzer, one blush. And I understand maybe those cheek products are more straightforward because they're not complexion, and complexion is complex in terms of different areas of your face being neutral, warm, lighter, dark, whatever the case might be. There's a little more nuance when it comes to nailing your complexion shade, which sometimes calls for mixing it up. So when you find the right cocktail, I think it's fantastic. It just, again, it makes you more confident in wearing these products because they actually match your skin face. And I wanted just to show a few cheek products in action because that's another element to it. The skin match, the texture, and how it sits under other products, right? Now, I understand that I did not apply a cheek cream product, so I have the entire month to play with the Dior stick and combining it with my different cheek products and textures and colors and whatnot. So you will hear my thoughts in the January favorites, because I do think it will be a favorite, especially if I find the right groove with it, which I think I'm establishing now when experimenting with my other complexion products. But let me know down below, because you have let me know in my previous videos what you think about the Dior stick, and it will be interesting to see what those thoughts are now, given that I filmed this first impressions. I wouldn't consider this a review, again, because it doesn't have a wear test in it. If anything, I will report back on my community board if I decide to go out for a run with this foundation on, or I'll wait until tomorrow and just wear the foundation solo, so it doesn't have any influence from my other complexion products, because that will probably happen. It will kind of influence the wear of the Dior stick if I mix it with the LYS or the Lisa Skin Tint. But if you made it this far, make sure you like this video, consider subscribing, and click that notification bell so you are alerted immediately of when that upload drops. And you should subscribe because I'm gonna be back here talking about this Dior stick, so you might as well. I'll see you down in those comments, and I'll see you on here again next time.